Hi everyone, I'm Sindhu Ernala, and on behalf of my co-authors Moira, Alex, and Nicole, I'll be presenting our CHI paper titled Mindsets Matter: How Beliefs about Facebook Moderate the Association Between Time Spent and Well-Being. Well-being is a broad concept that spans social, psychological, and physiological factors. And the relationship between well-being and time spent using social media has been a key area of research in the HCI and social computing communities. Looking across the body of literature exploring the association between social media use and well-being, a clear picture has yet to emerge. Prior work has identified a host of factors implicated in the connection between social media use and well-being, including active versus passive use, where active communication with people you care about is associated with positive outcomes via social connectedness, while passive use has been negatively associated with well-being. An additional factor that has not been widely explored is the role of mindset towards use. Do people's perceptions of whether they are doing something that is good or bad for themselves or society relate to how they behave or how they feel? Mindsets are core assumptions about the nature and operation of things in the world that can help explain differences in people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And decades of research have shown that people's mindsets have implications for both behavior and psychological state. For instance, hotel housekeepers who were told that their daily work activities constituted physical exercise showed differences in weight and blood pressure 1 month later compared to a control group. In this paper, we consider the role of these beliefs on the association between subjective well-being and time spent on one social media platform, Facebook. And we ask the research question: does the association between time spent on a social media platform and well-being vary with people's beliefs about that platform? To answer this question, we conducted a study combining survey responses with server logs of the participants' time spent on Facebook. The voluntary survey contained 6 questions about subjective well-being adopted from the Comprehensive Inventory of Thriving. Participants answered 2 questions eliciting their beliefs about Facebook from prior work. And they answered 1 question about how much time they spent or how many times they checked Facebook. Survey responses were combined with log data from Facebook servers, including the average daily number of minutes spent on Facebook in the previous 30 days, and aggregate data about participants' Facebook activity. To determine how beliefs about Facebook moderate the association between time spent on Facebook and well-being, we performed linear regression analysis, with well-being as the outcome, and included people's beliefs and its interaction with the time spent variable. In all regressions, we controlled for age, gender identity, country, friend count, and account tenure. People's beliefs about whether Facebook is good or bad for themselves or society moderated the association between time spent and well-being, as indicated by the 3 diverging lines here. In this chart, you see 3 lines. The lines represent different beliefs about Facebook. The beige line at the top is people who reported thinking that Facebook is very good for themselves or for society. The purple line is the sample mean, that is, people who said that Facebook was moderately good. And the green line is people who think that Facebook is moderately bad. Well-being is on the y-axis and time spent is the x-axis. So you can see that for people who spend very little time on Facebook, beliefs don't matter much. But for people who spend more time on the platform, beliefs matter. The 3 lines diverge more as we move to the right. So when people thought that Facebook was good, which is the top line, time spent on the platform was not significantly associated with well-being. But when they thought Facebook was bad, which is the bottom green line, there was a negative correlation between time spent and well-being. Keep in mind that we are talking about self-reported time spent here, because that's what's most commonly used in research literature. We'll talk about actual time spent as recorded in server logs in a bit. Also, this is cross-sectional data and the causal direction is unknown. This does not necessarily mean that spending more time on Facebook contributes to lower well-being. It may be that people who have lower levels of well-being try to mitigate this by spending more time on Facebook, for instance to build connections or entertain themselves. Complicating these diverging patterns, our results showed demographic differences in beliefs about Facebook. Teens, women, and participants in global Western countries reported believing that Facebook was worse than adults over 30, men, and people in Eastern and Global South countries. These differences in beliefs have methodological implications for how sampling pools are constructed. Much existing research on well-being and social media is conducted in globally Western countries with college students. These groups are more likely to have more negative perspectives about social media and not be representative of the rest of the world. Beliefs also had a stronger association with well-being than actual time spent from server logs did. This has implications for how we run studies as researchers and how we interpret results. First, lab experiments in which people are assigned to say give up Facebook for a month are not blind. The participants and researchers know whether they are giving up Facebook or not, and their beliefs about what will happen will likely impact the results. Our study shows that beliefs likely have a much larger impact on outcomes than the actual treatment does. Second, even observational studies can be susceptible to these beliefs, and the language that researchers use in the surveys is important. As Hancock and colleagues at Stanford found in a recent meta-analysis, the way that social media use survey scales are described has a meaningful impact on the study findings. When social media use is described with a negative lens, results are more negative than when it is described with more neutral language. Lastly, people's beliefs affect the findings more when the time spent data is self-reported. The chart on the right that uses self-reported time spent data has more diverging patterns compared to the chart on the left that uses objective server log time spent. Again, these findings are correlational and the causal direction is unknown. While our results suggest that accounting for participants' beliefs about a social media platform may reduce some of the error coming from self-reported time measures, we recommend using objective measures of time where possible. Thanks for listening.